Some movie directors try to make things look really big and exciting. Steven Spielberg is different. He looks for moments, the kind that can say a lot without anyone saying a word. Spielberg knows that sometimes what people do not say is more important than what they do say. For 50 years, Spielberg has been telling stories about things that seem impossible. He makes them feel real. He has made people feel scared in the middle of the ocean when they think about terrible things that happened in the past and amazed in a normal backyard. Even though his movies look perfect, Spielberg had to deal with a lot of problems behind the scenes to get the shots he wanted. Steven Spielberg had to work hard to make his movies look so good. This person is a storyteller who does his work when it is quiet, but he is also good at getting things done when things get tough. Some people who make movies try to avoid the parts. Spielberg is different. He thinks the hard projects are the ones that really show what you are made of, because the projects that almost make you give up are the ones that make you who you are. From Jaws to Schindler's List, from Empire of the Sun to AI and Saving Private Ryan, the stories were different. The battle was always the same for Spielberg. Time and pressure and risk and vision were always coming together at the time. Sometimes the problem was not the movie itself, the shark that would not swim in Jaws, or the weather that would not clear up when Spielberg needed it to, or the legacy of being a famous director that he never asked for. Spielberg has said times that he loves movies because he pays attention to what happened in the past, and that is what Spielberg thinks makes his movies good. These 6 films really put him to the test. The films tested him as a director, also as a person. There was a lot of pressure on him when he was making these films. He was not even sure how they would turn out. Somehow he was able to make these films into something really special, into masterpieces, into these 6 films that are masterpieces. The first movie on the list is Jaws, which came out in 1975. Some movies make legends. Jaws made Steven Spielberg. He was not ready. The studio did not trust Steven Spielberg. The shark in Jaws barely worked. This movie should have been a failure. It became the movie that changed Hollywood and made Steven Spielberg a famous name. Later, Steven Spielberg said that he always thought that if he could make it through Jaws, he could do anything. Making it through Jaws did not just mean finishing the filming. It meant taking a mess and making it make sense, and taking something scary and making it exciting. The first plan was to finish the movie in 55 days. It took a lot longer, 159 days. Steven Spielberg was really young, 26 years old, and he had not made many movies before. The movie was also going to cost a lot money than they thought, millions of dollars more. The fake shark, called Bruce, did not work well, so Spielberg decided not to show it much. He did this because he had to, not because he wanted to. This decision made the movie really scary because people had to imagine what the shark looked like. The shark was one of the monsters in movie history, and it was all in people's imagination. Later critics said that Spielberg was really smart to do it that way. They called it genius. Steven Spielberg said that the movie was really about survival. He also said that the shark not working properly was the thing that ever happened to Steven Spielberg. The shark was a problem, but it actually made the movie better. Steven Spielberg thinks that if the shark had worked perfectly, the movie would not have been as good. The second movie is Schindler's List, which came out in 1993. Steven Spielberg did not want to make Schindler's List. For a time, he said no to it. Schindler's List felt sad, too real, too personal for him. The fact that it was based on events made it very hard for him to deal with. It was a responsibility, and he did not think he was ready for it. Steven Spielberg once said that he did not feel ready inside. He was not old enough to make Schindler's List. By 1993, Steven Spielberg had made a lot of movies that were fun, like the ones with aliens and exciting adventures. Schindler's List was not like those movies. Schindler's List was real. It was something that actually happened. It was not a story. It was a scar. The movie is about Oskar Schindler, a man who was not perfect and mostly looked out for himself. He still managed to save the lives of more than 1,000 Jewish people during the Holocaust. Spielberg did not just make a movie about a hero. He made a movie about the pain that many people felt. He kept things simple when he was making the movie. He used white film and handheld cameras. There was not a lot of music. He did not try to make people feel sad on purpose. The quiet, the dark, and the feeling of guilt are what make the story so powerful. Oskar Schindler and the people he saved are what the story is really about. The Holocaust was a thing, and it had a big impact on many people, including Oskar Schindler. The experience of making this movie was really tough on everyone. People who worked on the set would cry when they were not filming. Some people who lived in the concentration camps during the Holocaust came to visit the set. They saw the places that Steven Spielberg made to look like the camps they were in. The crew had to stop filming a lot because it was all too much to handle. It was not because of problems with the cameras or anything like that. It was just that people were too sad and tired. Steven Spielberg said that making this movie was harder on him than any movie he had made. He would talk to his friends like Stanley Kubrick and Robin Williams when he felt down. They would try to make him feel better by making him laugh after a day of filming the movie. Steven Spielberg really needed his friends during this time. The Holocaust movie was very hard for him to make. Number 3 is Saving Private Ryan, which came out in 1998. I think Saving Private Ryan is a great movie. Saving Private Ryan is the one that I am talking about here. The first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan changed war films forever. The real battle was behind the camera. Saving Private Ryan was what Steven Spielberg was trying to do. He wanted to show what D-Day was like, not what people think it was like. It was bloody and confusing and really loud. Things just happened for no reason. Steven Spielberg wanted the people watching the movie to feel like something bad could happen at any moment from the start. His goal with Saving Private Ryan was not to show a lot of action, but to show how crazy and mixed up everything was. Steven Spielberg really got into his research for this movie. He looked at what veterans had to say. He read letters that soldiers had sent home to their families. He also talked to people who had been in the war. When it was time to film the part about Omaha Beach, Spielberg did things a little differently. He did not use the storyboards or music. It took him 4 weeks to film 20 minutes of the movie. He used a lot of people, 1,500 extras, and he also used real amputees to make it look real. Spielberg used lenses to make the colors look washed out. The way the movie sounded was also very important to Spielberg. He wanted it to sound really loud and confusing, like what it would be like to be there in the war. He wanted the viewer to feel like they were wearing a helmet. Couldn't hear anything clearly. The Omaha Beach sequence in the movie is very intense because of this. Spielberg made the sound effects sharp and erratic on purpose. The cameras were held in people's hands. They were shaking all over the place, like someone's eyes when they are really scared. There was blood over the lenses. It did not matter where the camera was pointing, the bullets just kept coming. Spielberg told the people operating the cameras to try to get through the scene, to just survive it. Whatever they got on film, that is what they got. Tom Hanks said later that Spielberg did not tell them what to do like most directors do. He just told the camera operators to get through it. That is all. The cameras were just trying to capture what was happening. The cameras were just trying to survive. The fourth one is AI, artificial intelligence, which came out in the year 2001. This whole thing started with Stanley Kubrick's idea. Ended up being a big responsibility for Spielberg. The movie AI was not any other film about the future, with lots of technology and stuff. It was something that had been passed down. Spielberg had known Stanley Kubrick for a long time, and when Stanley Kubrick died in 1999, Spielberg decided to finish the movie. This was a deal. He was not just making a film. He was basically getting into Stanley Kubrick's mind, trying to understand his vision, which was never really his own thing to begin with. Steven Spielberg later said that the movie was not really about following Stanley Kubrick's script, but it was about following what Stanley Kubrick was about inside. The story is about David, an advanced robot kid who is programmed to love people, and he goes on a very difficult journey to become a real human being. This movie is not like the story of Pinocchio with a lot of happy and silly moments. It is really a thoughtful movie about feeling sad and lonely, and about people leaving you behind, and about figuring out who you are. Steven Spielberg had to make sure he told the story in a way that was sincere and truthful. He had to do it without making the movie too sappy or sentimental, and without copying Stanley Kubrick's style so much that the movie lost what made it special and emotional. The film was a thing to make. Stanley Kubrick liked things to be calm and straightforward. Steven Spielberg liked to make people feel things deeply. The movie needed both of these things to work. It needed to be precise and also make people care. It had to be smart and also hurt a little. Finding a balance between these two things was the biggest challenge for the film. When it came to how the film looked, artificial intelligence was very hard to do in a way that Spielberg had not done before. The special effects were complicated, but not too showy. The sets for the film were really big. They also made people feel alone. The kid who played the part, Haley Joel Osment, had to be in scenes that were really mean and sad. He had to do this while still acting like a robot, which is very hard to do. The scenes were very emotional. Haley Joel Osment had to stay calm like an android. Number 5 is West Side Story, which came out in the year 2021. This movie was something that Spielberg wanted to make for a long time, but he was also really scared to try. For a time, he did not want to direct musicals. It was not that he did not like musicals, it was just that he thought they were really special. He watched a lot of musicals when he was growing up. He studied them too. He loved musicals, much that he did not want to try to make one, because he was afraid he would not do a good job. West Side Story was a special musical. It was the musical. A lot of people thought it was a classic. It had already won a lot of awards, 10 Academy Awards. Many people thought it was something that nobody should try to change. Steven Spielberg said the songs from West Side Story never left him alone. He had these songs from West Side Story in his head since he was a kid. The pressure to do West Side Story right was really huge. West Side Story has a lot of history, and people have feelings about it. There is also a lot of controversy and racial tension surrounding West Side Story. People remember West Side Story from a time ago, and they like it a lot. If Steven Spielberg did one thing with West Side Story, it would not just be a mistake, it would really upset people. So Steven Spielberg worked on West Side Story with a lot of people who could tell him if he was doing something wrong. He worked with the people who made the dances for West Side Story, the people who helped the actors sound right for West Side Story, and the people who knew a lot about the culture in West Side Story. He chose actors that people did not know well, and he wanted things to be real. He made sure that Latinx actors got the parts of Rican people. He did not want to do things the way like Hollywood did in the past. He wanted Latinx actors to play Latinx roles because that is what makes the movie real. He did this with the Rican roles, and it made a big difference. When Steven Spielberg directed a musical, he had to learn a new way of doing things. For him, movement was like talking. The way the actors stood and walked around the stage was like a conversation. The camera did not just show what was happening, it was like it was dancing along with the actors. Every single picture on the screen had to be beautiful and interesting. Even when it was quiet, it had to feel like music was still playing. The feelings of the characters had to be shown not with words, but with their bodies. Spielberg said that he had never worked hard on a project before. He got ready for it by studying how other people had directed musicals, like Jerome Robbins. He watched their work over and over again. Even with all his preparation, filming the musical was still very stressful for him. Spielberg and his musical were a challenge for him. The musical was a test for Spielberg. Number 6 is Empire of the Sun, which came out in the year 1987. Before Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan, Empire of the Sun came out. This movie was a deal for Spielberg because it was his first real try at making something that really meant a lot to him. He did not have any effects to fall back on. Empire of the Sun was not a movie that everyone loved or a big hit. It was a movie about war that was told from a kid's point of view. The movie is about how people get hurt, how their idea of the world gets broken. For Spielberg, making Empire of the Sun was like going into a place without being protected. The people at the studio did not really get the film. People who watched it were not sure what to make of it. Spielberg felt like he was in a spot in a way that he never had been before. Making the film was a job. It was made in many different countries, and it was very hard to get everything done. They even built towns and then tore them down. They fixed up planes to make them look like new. They moved military trucks and things across whole continents. Spielberg was still a young guy, but the size of the film was scary even for people who had been making movies for a long time. Christian Bale was a new face at that time, but he was able to show a lot of emotion in the movie. Spielberg had to film everything from the kid's point of view. The kid had to feel things like being hungry, sad, amazed, confused, and a little crazy. This was not your story about a kid growing up. The boy in the movie does not become stronger like you would expect. He actually falls apart. Spielberg thought the people watching the movie could handle seeing the boy break down without needing something to make them feel better away. Christian Bale and the way he played the boy were very important to the film. Spielberg made sure that the movie stayed true to what the boy was going, like hunger and grief and wonder. When the movie did not do well at the box office, it was really sad. The people who review movies were not sure what to think. Some people thought the movie was hard to connect with, while others thought it was very deep. Spielberg felt bad about what people were saying, not because of the money, because he had shared something personal, and people did not completely understand it. As time went on, Empire of the Sun found people who liked it. Now, movie directors and critics think Empire of the Sun is one of Spielberg's movies that not many people know about, and it is clear that it influenced his later movies that are also kind of sad and haunting, like Empire of the Sun. Steven Spielberg has made movies about dinosaurs, aliens, wars, and dreams. The toughest parts of his job were not the big loud scenes. They were the moments when he felt unsure and stressed. There were times when Spielberg himself did not know if he could finish making a movie. 6 of his films were really hard to make. They tested him in many ways. That is why these movies are important. They were not just difficult to make. They were moments in his career. Some of these movies helped make him famous. Others almost made him give up. Steven Spielberg learned a lot from these movies. They changed his life. Every one of them made him a better director and a braver storyteller.